Donald Trump and his party's new establishment appear so eager to fast forward to the general election. Let's reintroduce them to the person who stands opposed. You know, the one who beat them so handily last time around. As we speak, President Biden is on track to win more votes in New Hampshire as a write-in candidate than President Obama did when he ran for re-election in 2012, unopposed and on the ballot. So after that show of force, it is off to South Carolina, a state that injected rocket fuel into his 2016 campaign. A legion of Biden's surrogates are starting a barnstorm of that state, including California Governor Gavin Newsom campaigning for Biden this week across several counties. Enhancing President Biden's position this afternoon, an earned endorsement from the United Auto Workers, months after the president famously visited striking workers on the picket line in the fall. His speech today sounding a lot like a general election message.
The days of working people being dealt out of the deal are over in this country as long as I'm president. Working people are going to get their fair share. You've earned it. You fought for it. And you deserve it. So today I want to say to all of you, thank you. Thank you. I could not be more proud or more honored that you've chosen to stand with me.
Joining me at the table, national co-chair for President Biden's re-election campaign, Mitch Landrieu. Thanks so much for being here. This endorsement, just how significant?
Well, it's huge, not only because it's the United Auto Workers, but the message that President Fain sent today, which is basically that you could not have a clearer contrast. You have a guy that is for millionaires and billionaires, a guy that basically had lunch at $1 million table, versus a guy that grew up at a table with his daddy who got laid off. Somebody who's going to fight for working men and women every day. But before we get into that, I always start these off by saying and reiterating what your previous guest said. Donald Trump is unfit to be the president of the United States because democracy itself is at threat. And one of the reasons why Joe Biden ran for office was to preserve and protect democracy, to preserve and protect our freedoms. And that's why one of the reasons why he's running again. And Donald Trump is a serious threat. When you have people like Liz Cheney and Charlie Sykes and then 17 other people that worked for the ex-president of the United States saying, hey, I'm throwing up red flags, people really should pay attention. But this particular endorsement, I think resonates because Joe Biden wakes up every day working hard to make sure that we build an economy for working men and women, and he has delivered with massive receipts, and therein lies a big contrast between these two guys.
Let's talk about South Carolina, a state that has not delivered a victory for a Democrat on the presidential ticket since about 1974, if I am not mistaken. Why the emphasis, why the investment in South Carolina?
Well, first of all, another big difference between these two guys is Donald Trump is going to lead a presidency of retribution, revenge, and he's going to be for the rich. So
and those aren't your words. Those are his.
Those are his words.
Yep.
I'm just taking him at his word. He was a bad president before. He's now telling us he's going to be a much worse president, and he's going to deal people out of the deck. But Joe Biden has said every day that I'm for everybody. As you know, I was a senior advisor and helped with the infrastructure piece, 40,000 projects, 14 million jobs. The president has said to me, go everywhere. Talk to everybody. Forget about that it's a red state. Forget about it a blue state. I am a president for everybody, whether they're for me or against me. And by the way, even if people criticize me, I'm going to hug them and invite them into my space. Donald Trump says, if you oppose me, I'm going to get you. I'm going to punish you. You're not going to see anything like you've seen before. As a matter of fact, lawyers, please go ask the judge if it's okay if I kind of SEAL Team 6 on people and assassinate my political rivals. That's just insane stuff. And so the contrast is really clear. But the president's going to South Carolina, critically important. The South is important, the West, East, everywhere. And that's so he's ready. He's ready for battle. And as you said in your opening, when people talk about Joe Biden, because he is the most underestimated politician in the history of America, there's only one person in this country that actually beat Donald Trump, and that was Joe Biden. He did it once, and he's absolutely going to do it again.
I wonder, as someone who did work on the infrastructure piece, which is one of the crown jewels of the Biden administration, when you now see congressional Republicans who voted against that signature piece of legislation out there claiming credit for the investments in their community. I mean, how about it?
That's a big shock, isn't it?
I mean, nothing is shocking anymore. But I do wonder, going into a general election where it's not just going to be President Biden on the ticket, a lot of those folks are going to be on the ticket, how you undercut those claims? How do you remind Americans who actually showed up and did the work to get the job done?
Well, the most important thing to remind people is that Joe Biden showed up when this country was in the midst of an insurrection, when thousands of people were dying from COVID, when an economy was spiraling and American citizens were actually standing outside waiting for food to be given out at schools. And he pulled this country back from the brink, passed the American Rescue Plan, passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, passed the Inflation Reduction Act, replaced the CHIPS Act, and basically have now created 14.5 million jobs. That actually happened. Who decides to take credit for it is not nearly as important as the fact that Joe Biden has done something that nobody else has done in the last 50 years in this country, and that's why this country is ready to take off. Stock market, it's at its highest place that it's been in many, many years, low unemployment. Prices are still high, but the president is fighting every day to lower people's prices and lower the burden on them. And he's actually getting after it. And he understands that we live in a republic and a democracy where we honor the rule of law and we don't actually engage in tyrannical acts and autocracy like Donald Trump has already said that he's going to do.
Donald Trump, for a long time, has been eager to make this a two-person race to look forward to the general election.
Let's get it on.
It's very clear the ways in which that behooves him. Is that the Biden campaign's position, that this is now a general election race?
I think Joe Biden has had one of the most successful presidencies we've seen in the last 50 years. And so whoever they choose, he's ready to go with. However, it's really clear that Donald Trump has eviscerated and eliminated the Republican Party that this country has known forever, which is why you see so many conservatives, Liz Cheney, Charlie Sykes, saying, oh, my God, I don't even recognize this party. So you will recall, and Joe Biden has said this all the time, independents, mainstream Republicans, everybody come our way. And if you noticed in New Hampshire, when you dug underneath the votes, the folks that said we will not vote for Donald Trump are people who in the general election are open to a Joe Biden's candidacy and presidency because of the incredible work that he's done to put America back on track and ready to take off.